Board gaming apparel.
Have you ever bought a board game when your spouse said no? Have you ever won a game on an insane dice roll? Have you ever killed a dragon using only chopsticks? Do you text your friends to distract them from your current moves? Can you finish off a pizza in between your second and third turn? Can you ride a panda across the plains of Dewey? Do you have what it takes to stop an evil wizard from destroying your village? Do you tell your friends to call you Dungeon Master? Can you muster the strength to play one more game after 2 a.m.? Can you be the chosen one all the way up to bedtime? Have you ever dared to say no and pick your best friend's favorite character anyway? Have you ever randomly shouted nonsense because you thought it would be funny, and it wasn't? Well, we haven't done most of those things either, but we are willing to try. Join us as we explore the world of board gaming and all the crazy things that come with it. Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast.
Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Canday, and with me as always is Matt.
Hello.
And Rob.
Hello, hello.
Nice. How you guys doing tonight?
Okay.
Oh man, come on! You got to be doing better than okay.
Are you staying warm? That's the question.
It's been a long day. Yeah, I'm warm. It's fun.
What was it, like 15 degrees this morning?
I don't know. I haven't been outside all day.
It was.
Hey, that's
really
the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Good long day for me too, but good creative, good news long day. So I'm tired, but it's like happy tired, if that makes sense.
We gotta muster through. We gotta have that hype.
Yes. Oh, I'm hype. I'm super excited actually for this podcast. People actually asked us questions, and not like bad questions either. They're actually good questions. I was expecting to get like a plethora of what deodorant do you guys prefer, or what shampoo does Matt use on his beard and stuff like that.
Literally, if someone had asked those sort of questions, because they're pretty awesome, especially the beard one, I totally would have put them in the show. So, but the problem is next time, all we're gonna get is that question.
Probably.
Hey, that's fine. We can just have a very, very personal rock talk podcast.
We're just gonna have a straight up beard episode where all we talk about is Matt's beard and different beard styles and how me and Rob are jealous of the beard and all that stuff.
I can grow a good beard. I'm not doing that for a while, but you do have like a ridiculous, awesome, like you should be in a commercial style beard.
I'm really depressed. Like the times I tried to grow a beard out, it just never worked. I literally was doing No Shave November. You know how people do that, and we had a visit, and my boss came and was like, "Hey, what's up with the facial hair thing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's No Shave November," and she's like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't." I'm like, "Oh man," she's very patchy. I'm like, "Oh, so sad."
That's sad.
It's like on Joe Dirt. Did it just naturally grow in like that? All patchy and stuff like that?
So terrible.
You had Joe Dirt facial hair. That's awesome.
But our topic this week is questions and answers. So we're going to answer some questions sent in on our Instagram and through email. So that should be super exciting. But before we get into all the questions, we're going to talk about what we've been playing.
Well, I guess let me go first since we've talked about the game that I'm going to talk about in the past. We played Welcome to the Dungeon. It's a fun dungeon crawl game. It's sort of dungeon crawlish. There's not a board, but it plays 2 to 4 players. And what you are doing is you pick a character, whether it's the rogue or the barbarian or the warrior or the mage. And each character comes with 6 different items. Is it 6 items? 5 or 6 items.
Yes.
They have these different items. They have these different items that are going to help them get through the dungeon. And every person is going to take a turn, and they can either take a card and decide to put it back in the pile. They can take a card, keep the card, and then take one of those items away, or they can pass. And what's going to happen is the person who is left after everyone has passed has to go through the dungeon. If you survive going through the dungeon, you get this gold victory card. If you get 2 of those, you automatically win the game. or if you're the last person remaining, you win the game. It's simple, super easy. It's a lot of fun. Cheap game. What I mean by cheap is the components. It's actually really good quality, but it's like under $20. It's like $15.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this game, and it was a great time killer game. You know, if you're looking for something maybe a little bit meatier and also maybe a little bit more social than like a Lost Legacy or a Love Letter, because this one you're paying attention to what did they take or did they put the card back. And I know we were giving each other a hard time, like, oh my gosh, I better pass now. Matt just did that. You know, I need to pass. And then we got Hector out, but then Roy took Hector's spot. So it was fun. We had a really good time, but that was Welcome to the Dungeon. Super cool, super light, very simple, fun little game.
Yeah, lots of press your luck and like risk management, being like, do I think this character can really get through this with these? Like, these are the cards I've seen. So you have a little bit of information, but you don't have perfect information. And some things you can know for sure what you're doing, and it's pretty fun because you get to bluff whether you're trying to set up the dungeon to like actually kill or set up the dungeon to actually like be livable. The worst thing ever is when you're like, you know that the dungeon's really bad and you're like setting it up to be terrible, and then they pass and you're just like, what have I done? Oops. What have I done? You're like, I didn't think they were going to pass that fast. They must have thrown really terrible stuff in there too, because they know it's bad and I know it's bad, and then you just get wiped out. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah. It's oddly complex for a game of its size, I feel like. Like, there's different strategies
complex?
And stuff. Yeah.
Why did you think it was complex?
I mean, complex
was it the game,
sense
or was it the people you were playing with?
I would think deep would be the word to use instead of complex. I think it's very simple for anyone to...
Fair point. Yeah.
Anyone can jump into the game and play it, but like there's a lot of interesting things that go on.
There's a lot of different like ways you can approach various situations. So like Roy was saying, you can set it up to kill people, or you can not. You can kind of be a bit more variable and bluff and do a lot of other stuff that, I mean, I don't know. You just wouldn't expect it in a game of its size, I feel like. Or maybe I don't.
No, it is a small game, and it's not a very long game. I don't think that the game itself, the gameplay itself, is deep or complex. I think it's your opponents.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to know what your opponents are doing, because they're the ones that are bluffing or telling the truth. They're the ones that are taking certain things. But if you play with a bunch of stupid people, the game's going to be kind of easy. You know, I mean, if you put it that way, you know, now our game group, we play a lot of games, and we play a lot of bluffing social deduction games, so it may be a little bit more deep or complex with our group, but I think, you know, your average group of people could pick up the game. It's not very intimidating. The rules really aren't intimidating, and they could pick it up and play. It's just like any game. The more and more you play, the more your strategy will change. I never played the game before. Now, I am a gamer, but I've never played the game before, and you and I made it, Matt, to the very end. So, I mean, I am kind of amazing, but I mean, still never playing the game where we're able to do that.
Who ended up winning in between the two of you?
Matt, because now neither one of us died. He was able to make it through. For his first turn, he put in like this one guy in there, but his next couple turns...
Oh, yeah, because y'all had the rogue left.
Keeping cards. Well, he kept keeping cards, but he kept on taking pieces of armor. And so, like, the stuff that he took was pretty important. Like, he took the bottle that gives you, you know, an extra life in case you die. And then I think he took the thing that any creature that's 7 or greater dies. And so I was like, whoa. But I guess he also kept in his hand the 7 and the 9, so it really didn't matter. That's why he took that. And so that kind of freaked me out. So I was like, no, and I passed. And then he flew right through it, like, oh, okay. You know, it didn't really bug him or phase him.
Nice.
So,
awesome.
But fun times.
But yeah, that's Welcome to the Dungeon. They got fun and games. Anyway, so the game that I want to talk about is we played it a couple weeks ago. It is Cash and Guns, which we love. Cash and Guns. It's a game where you get to point foam guns at each other and try to argue over how you're splitting up the loot after this heist. But we played Cash and Guns with the More Guns, More Money expansion. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So
something like that.
So basically, this expansion adds several different things, which are really neat. It adds like different types of guns, which you can get characters with different special abilities that allow you to use those guns. My character had the special ability where she could have 2 guns at the same time, and only one of those guns is actually the real gun. But it makes multiple people think that you could be pointing at them. And a lot of this game is bluffing, just pointing your gun at someone so they back out of the thing. Because if they have enough guns pointed at them, it's too much risk to stay in. In this game, you're trying to get the most money by the end of the game, but everybody is like doing, like Mexican standoff or whatever, where you're all pointing guns at each other and people can try to back out. If you back out, then you won't take the damage, or you can stay in, and if you get hit, you still don't get any of the money. But if you stay in and you don't get hit or anything, you will get to take some of the loot that's in the middle, and everybody just takes turns getting loot. It's a game where you're trying to figure out who's currently winning and maybe point your gun at them, or who you... Sometimes a lot of people are like, oh man, they ticked me off, I'm going to point my gun at them because they pointed their gun at me last time. So there's a lot of immediate like reciprocation for who you point your gun at because people remember. So it's a lot of fun. A few of the other things that the expansion adds are like fake dollar bills and fake jewels, and this whole locked key and briefcase thing. The fake items are really cool because they make picking the Godfather on the last turn important, because the fake money and fake jewels aren't actually real unless whoever picks the Godfather on the very last turn of the game decides that they are real. So it's actually pretty interesting the way that works. And so it actually, if you have a ton of these fake jewels and you let somebody else get the Godfather who doesn't have a ton of the fake jewels and they say that they're not real, then you've just wasted a whole lot of picks of things. And then also there's like this safe because they added more cards. The Godfather also has a chance to look at 2 items out of the safe and take one for themselves and give one to the person to their right. So their right-hand man or whatever, which is kind of interesting, a way that you can help yourself, but then you might end up helping someone else as well. And then there's other cards that let you look through that whole safe and take stuff out. And then there's other weapons for the different special abilities. Like there's a big gun that if you have that character, the first time you hit someone, if they have no damage, they take 2 damage instead. So there's all sorts of interesting stuff with this expansion, and just the best part is more foam guns and more cool special abilities. What did you think of this, Matt? I know you played it.
It was good. I mean, I wish I would have gotten to play with some of the other guns, because the guns are technically like a power-up, so not everybody gets special guns because you randomly deal out the power-ups at the beginning of the game. So I think, Roy, you were the only person that had a special gun. Everybody else was...
I think some of the other players had some of the new power-ups, but it didn't actually add like the extra guns in there. So. Yeah.
I mean, all in all, it's still the same cash and guns. It's just got some more stuff to it, so still a lot of fun.
I was about to say, if you like cash and guns, you'll like this expansion. If you didn't like cash and guns, this expansion doesn't change the game up that much, so you're still not gonna like cash and guns. But if you don't like cash and guns, then I don't know what you're doing wrong. You just need to. You probably just get upset that everybody points their gun at you all the time, which is me a lot of the times. It happens to me. I always open my mouth too much, and I'm like, so-and-so's winning. We need to point at so-and-so. I learned to stop saying that. I just need to let other people figure out who's winning and point their gun at whoever, because the more I talk, the more, like, we start the next round, the more guns are pointed at me. So, it's always fun. Yeah. I know you have this expansion, Rob. You haven't got a chance to play it yet, have you?
I have not. I've taken it to a couple of different gaming events that I've had and gone to try to play. It's just... there's so many other awesome party games that have recently come out,
right?
That we haven't given it a shot. But even if I hadn't gotten, I'd still love Cash and Guns. It's probably one of my favorite, easily top 10 party games of all time. games. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it adds, like, to really use the expansion, you really have to do all these special abilities, and it makes the different items you can get kind of a little bit more unique. So you probably don't want to necessarily play it with people that are the very first time playing unless they're, like, gamers.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to have more stuff you have to explain at the beginning. With us, it was easy because everybody knew how to play Cash and Guns. We weren't playing with any new people, and I could just say, hey, these are what the new things do, and that made it a little bit more simpler. So yeah,
I love it.
That's what I have been playing. Cash and Guns, more cash and more guns.
Hooray!
And Matthew Robbins, what have you been playing?
Well,
sir,
I mean, played the same thing you guys played, but we also played Codenames, but with Dixit cards instead of the regular words. So it's really interesting because you lay out all these Dixit cards, which are highly interpretive to begin with because they're only artwork, and then try to just play code names with that. So I don't know what you guys thought, but I felt like it was easier, in my opinion.
I felt like it was easier for the Codemaster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more subjective from the team of people that the Codemaster is trying to help. Like, their end can be a little bit harder, but I think the Codemaster has a much easier time in that unless you make up some other house rules to go along, you can just literally be like, lighthouse 4, and if there are 4 lighthouses on the board, they can just touch those because it's, not like that. But I don't know, I felt it was simple. I would rather play normal Codenames than Codenames with Dixit card, personally. I just like the challenge, I suppose, a little bit better.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting because it definitely seems simpler for the Codemaster to think up things to say. Because Codenames, sometimes you can just get like locked, being like, oh man, how do I make 2 words match? I have all these words, like how do I make it happen? With all the pictures, there's just so many pictures and there's so many different things on all the pictures. It's like instead of having 1 word for each card, you have like 20 words for each card. You can do all sorts of different things with each card. So you just have to figure out how to make them match together. We had like a ton of water cards out there, and I was trying to figure out how to get you guys to guess exactly which cards were ours. And so I said underwater, so you guys like took out the cards that weren't underwater specific, and you guys picked the exact 3 that I said. So it was pretty interesting. It made it a little bit more artsy as opposed to just like words and thinking. But yeah, it's a fun experiment. But yeah, regular Codenames is really awesome as well.
I really liked it. I mean, regular Codenames, I agree with Matt, is more challenging because you don't have the art there. But I'm a big fan of both games anyway. I mean, Dixit is a really good party game, and it's a really good party intro game, which we can get into one of the questions later with that. But I mean, the artwork and everything is beautiful, and then mixing that with Codenames, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good solution if you have played enough Codenames where you kind of know the words. Which, I mean, that'd be tough, but I like the idea that we integrated 2 separate games into one, and so it made it more enjoyable. And I also like it that the podcast team won every round.
I felt kind of bad afterwards because I'm just like, I don't mean to like segregate us and be like, oh, we are the podcast guys and you guys are the stream guys. Like, no. But yeah, Zeb in chat, which is one of my friends, he was there during the stream. He says, "Kingdoms, LOL."
Yeah,
bro. I thought Kingdoms made sense.
So Rob said Kingdoms, and me and Matt are like looking around trying to find cards with Kingdoms, and there's a card that literally has a picture of a castle and a princess running away from the castle on there. I'm like, oh, that's like a burning kingdom, and I'm like, this makes sense as a kingdom thing. So the first thing we picked was that, and Rob's like, how could you guys be so stupid? Like, a burning castle is obviously not a kingdom. Which of course there was a crown and there was other stuff. I mean, we had talked about some of these other things, but like,
on the picture that you're talking about, there was a fire engine, and it was a picture. It was like she was in a piece of art, and the kingdom in the piece of art was on fire. So she was crawling down the modern day ladder on the modern day fire truck, out of the old historic kingdom. That was a little itty bitty castle in the upper right hand corner of the card. It wasn't the main focal point or anything. The main focal point of that card was her escaping on the ladder. I just thought.
Needless to say, Rob got a little salty, but it didn't deter us because we figured out the other two pretty quickly right thereafter, and we blasted them out of the water from there on. Yeah. It was awesome. Everybody else did a good time, and dude, I love Ryan. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, he would stress me out.
You weren't even on his team, and he stressed you out.
No, I'm saying if I was on his team, he would stress me out.
Oh man, it's so much fun.
I get it, because like there were a couple of times where I was pulling a Ryan, if you will, where I just wanted to touch a card. And I'm allowed to talk. I won't necessarily do it, but he'll just do it. He'll just okay.
It's the best. Like if you want entertainment, there it is. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. Ryan is great to play with. And I felt really bad for AJ.
Because he was trying. He was trying.
Another thing to note, I think, about the gameplay is that playing it with Dixit cards significantly decreases the time it takes to play the game. Because the Codemaster thinks a whole lot less, because the things are very visual.
You're AJ. Speaking of AJ, that guy. AJ, if you're watching or listening, I do love you, man. I love you, and I'll try to bring you zebra cakes or some type of cake every time. But, bro, when I can have my turn done in 10 seconds and it takes you over 10 minutes, and I'm not joking, when we started the game, like, we started almost playing another game. You were taking so long just looking at the words of what to do. It was rough. And then you guys still lost. It was just, I don't know.
I think that's what he was thinking about. It wasn't necessarily the cards. It was how to counteract Ryan's sheer randomness. So he was like,
how do I eliminate the random factor?
What can I say that's not going to get Ryan to touch that random card there?
That's awesome.
Yeah, like, what can I say that he doesn't choose the spy?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love those guys. A lot of fun. But, yeah, AJ took a long time.
Awesome. Cool. Do you guys want to talk about the other game?
No. You can. I don't think it was bad.
I'll do it.
It wasn't bad. I just didn't like the fact when you play that game after playing games like Legendary,
let me set it up. So we played the Naruto deck building game, which is basically, it's made by Cryptozoic. It's a spin-off of their DC deck building game, and from what I've heard, it's very, very similar. There's a few extra mechanics added into the Naruto one to make it a little bit more complex, but it's your basic deck building game where you start with a small deck, and there's a row of cards out in the middle, and you're trying to buy those cards. There's some cards that are always there, and you're trying to buy those cards, make your deck better. In this game, there's a deck of villains or enemies, and then they're called arch enemies, and once you beat all of the arch enemies, the game's over, and you count up whoever has the most points wins the game. It's very, very similar to the DC deck building game, except this one adds a chakra mechanic, so there's extra cards that have like special abilities with chakra, and you can build up different types of cards into your deck, and different characters are better at making chakra for different things. There's also hand signs you can get, which just give you extra chakra and then go back to the pile that they came from. It's pretty interesting. I really like the Naruto theme because I'm a huge fan of that anime. I don't know if many of you guys are into like Japanese anime stuff, but it's pretty fun. I've watched all of that, so I was there for the theme, but it was pretty interesting. There's a few things that I didn't like, and I don't know if it's the exact same in the DC, but in this game you start with a weakness card in your hand, which literally has 0 power, 0 victory points, it's 0 everything. It literally does nothing for you. And I mean, maybe if you're one of the characters that have a chakra point that's like a starting card, it can almost do something for you. But for my character who didn't, that card was literally entirely useless, which I understand it's your weakness, so you start weak and you got to build yourself up. But it was just really annoying starting the game having a card that does nothing whatsoever.
It's just a way to stall the game for no reason.
Exactly. And in Dixit I mean, not Dixit. In Dominion, they have a card that's very similar to that, but it gives you a victory point at the end of the game. So it's like, hey, if I keep this card in my deck, like it's still going to give me a point at the end. And the other cards you start with don't give you any points. So it's like, okay, well, this one gives me a point. I have this card in my hand. Okay, it clogs it up, but it's worth points. And the points are a lot harder to come by in Dominion than they are in the Naruto deck building game. Naruto deck building game, all the cards you buy give you points all over the place. There's just almost seems like random values on the cards for points. There's some things that multiply the points you get at the end of the game depending on which cards you have, which is pretty cool. Like there's the what was it? One of the pain guys gives you extra points depending on the number of Pains you had beaten. Pain is like one of the big bosses in the Naruto anime, so that was pretty cool. And I mean, I love the theme. I love the game. We also played it with 5 players, which was probably a mistake because it took way too long to come back around. But if it came back around faster, it would probably be a little bit more enjoyable. But overall, I've played so many other deck building games that it was just not there for me. Like, if I look at my shelf of games, I will pretty much always pick Legendary over this game.
Oh my goodness. If you ever pick this game over Legendary, I think I'd hit you in the head. And it's not that the game was horrible. It just wasn't good. And Legendary is really good. In fact, the Secret Wars expansions, I love the artwork and the concept. Those are great. And then the Legendary with Alien Predator. What the main thing I did not like about this game is the fact that you could only get 5 cards. And with that 5 cards, like Roy said, part of your starting hand does absolutely nothing for you. We had, through all 5 of us, almost 2 full rounds where nobody could do anything because after drawing your cards, discarding cards, after everyone getting their hands,
I've never
we didn't
had
have enough points.
A deck building game where literally on your turn you could just do nothing. Like there was nothing to buy. Nothing at all that you could do, and everybody was suffering from that. So it's literally like the game is going nowhere because we're all just sitting there because we have terrible. I mean, it wasn't even that we had super bad cards. It's just the cards that were out there were really expensive, and the piles of cards that you can just buy all the time were just depleted. So it's kind of like, well, your turn. Go ahead. Like I hope you can do something because I can't. And there's no real like pressure to end the game. Like in Legendary, it's like it's a cooperative game. You're working together to defeat the mastermind, and the more that time goes by, the more that you're getting closer to losing the game because the scheme, depending on what the scheme is for the game, there's all sorts of different lose conditions for the game. In this game, like there's no real pressure to end the game besides the fact that, oh, you want to get more victory points, or oh, you want to like end it so that you're done playing it. So
what are we going to do with you, Roy? Making us play those horrible games.
No, it was good. An interesting thing is I actually think I like Dominion more than it. So I know Matt's not a super big fan of Dominion, but in Dominion, at least it's not as random. Like all the cards are laid out. You can kind of see how the combos might work together, and you can try to build those combos. In this game, it's a shuffled up deck, and they're randomly coming out. So on your turn, like Rob, you had like a bajillion turns where it's like, oh man, I really want that card, but that card was gone before it came to your turn. So it's like, well,
yeah, because my hand, I'd only have like 2 or 3 power, or even 4 power.
And then somebody buys all the cheap cards, and you're left buying another kick.
Well, Hector would have the same hand that I would have, but the cards would be out there, and so he'd buy the 2 power, and then another 2 power would come out, and then when he'd go to replace that, it'd be a 7 or an 8. It's like, okay, I'm not going to do anything again. Now, I ended up tying with Matt for first, only because I was able to buy a lot of little stuff. And I got lucky because AJ made a mistake. We didn't make a mistake. He killed a boss, but then the boss got shuffled back in, and the boss was worth half the points, and that gave me a point. But anyway, it wasn't bad. I mean, if you like Naruto or whatever it's called,
Naruto,
you may like it. It wasn't for me. I'd rather play Legendary every single time.
Gotcha.
And has it been 30 minutes? Because we need like 10 more seconds.
No, we're good. But yeah, so that was Naruto, the deck building game. Sorry we had to do a slightly off positive, but we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about. But yeah, so we're just going to get into our topic.
Always be good vibes.
Exactly. Can't always be good.
Life's a bit too rough for just constant happiness.
We've got to warn the people. We don't want them to. We want them to know what's good. So
like if you were an avid fan of Naruto,
I mean, you could get it. I'm going to probably keep it because I love Naruto.
If you're an avid fan of Naruto, your mind is going to get blown when you play Legendary. Your mind is literally going to explode with how much better Legendary Marvel is compared to that game. So if you're an average fan, if you're a big fan of that game, congratulations. It only gets better. Pick up Legendary. It's going to blow your mind.
Legendary, though, is like the king of all deck building games. Like it wins everything.
It does. So why play anything else? I mean, it really is. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the king yet. I would say Dominion is still the king just because it has tenure and it has so many expansions.
Yeah, but it's so bad.
I'm with you. I would rather play Legendary. I think Legendary is better. I like the combos and the card combinations better on Legendary. But to say the king, I mean, I would. If you were to ask 10 board gamers that play board games, they would probably say Dominion over Legendary. Out of 10.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that are into the other Legendaries with the aliens and predators. There's a lot of people that are on that Legendary bandwagon at this point. So,
I mean, that's their opinion, and they're wrong, but it's okay. It might not be the king, but I do think Legendary is the best deck building game.
And I agree.
Gotcha. So let's go ahead and get into our topic. This week is going to be questions and answers. If anybody in chat wants to ask us any questions, we might actually talk about them on the podcast, so that'll be cool too. So feel free to hit us up if they're good enough, or not too crazy, not too much about Matt's beard. But yeah,
ask any questions.
Our first question is one that was sent to us through email. This is from Matthew M. And he asks, what are your tips and tricks for print and plays? How do you decide what games you want to print off? What do you use for missing components? What card stock do you use? And what do you do for print and play storage?
Can I go first? I'm super excited for this.
Absolutely.
I've never done it, so I have no idea. I go to Amazon and I buy the game.
So I'm in the same boat. Because
you printed and played.
It was me.
Week. You were just talking about Secret Hitler.
I played that on Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, come on.
See, that's the thing, though. I don't do print and plays because I have Tabletop Simulator. So anything that I want to play that might be print and play, I just have it in computer form.
And that makes sense.
A cheater. No.
I mean, hey. Welcome to 2016.
I guess this question is up to me then, because I have partaken in the print and play, and they are a pain in the neck. So print and plays take a lot of work, mostly because you have to print out all the files, and then sometimes they actually have good artwork on the print and play, and you're like, hey man, let me actually go to Staples and get this printed out so it looks awesome. Normally for cardstock, I just use regular paper and I just try to sleeve everything. I've never done an actual print and play board game with a board or anything too crazy. So I don't know what you would do for if you have to put out a whole board. Most of the stuff I've done is card games. I print and played Spyfall, right? Yeah. The one where...
Yeah, you did do Spyfall.
And that was a simple game where you just have a bunch of different locations. So I just printed out all the cards, cut them all up, put them all in sleeves, and basically the way I do sleeves is I have a sleeve, and then I have a magic card, and then I put an actual paper card for the game in front of that magic card. So it still has the heft of a real card in a sleeve, but it's not all papery feeling. So I don't really do the card stock just because that's more expensive and hard to print off and even worse to cut. I don't have a cutting board thing, but I know a lot of people that do prototypes and a lot of print and plays. You definitely want one of those slicing board things to help cut your cards, or else you're just going to be with scissors cutting. I haven't really done a lot of print and plays overall. For storage, I just put them in either another games box or in a deck box. I've done a lot more prototyping or like playtesting. So, and you have to do a lot of the same stuff when you're doing that sort of thing. So like if you're playtesting a game, they'll send you just a whole bunch of cards and it's like, okay, well I got to cut all these out, or they'll send you like these different files of different things you got to do for different pieces. Components, you basically just have to take them from other games. You can always go and get like glass bead type things from like your hobby stores and stuff like that, and that helps, like from Michael's or Hobby Lobby or anything like that. There's all sorts of ways to find components, but I normally take them out of a game that I'm not currently playing a lot, to make my print and plays or prototypes or whatever. So
sounds exciting.
You've done a little bit of prototype stuff, Rob, haven't you? Or
nothing that was like print and play.
That you didn't have to cut up anything, or?
No, I say, listen, guys, listen. If you're gonna send me anything and you want my opinion, it better be high quality. These corn dog fingers don't cut out stuff. I need it pre-cut. Awesome. I also need a bag full of only green M&Ms, Fiji water, and there's a couple other demands. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but yeah, I am a Devo. And I need to be treated like such.
With all that said, I don't really like. I try to stay away from print and plays now. Since we've been doing the podcast, there's been several companies that have been like, "Hey, do you want to try out our print and play for a game?" I'm just like, not really. It's a lot of like making these things is a lot of work. And if you really want to play the game, like Tiny Epic Western just came out on Kickstarter, and they have a print and play for the game. Like you can print it out, and once the Kickstarter ends, they're going to have like a nice one that you can print out with like all the art if you back the Kickstarter. So I mean, that's something that's worth doing, and actually printing out if you just have to play the game beforehand. But I'm at the point where I have a lot of games behind me. Like I can normally wait for a real copy of the game at this point. What do you think, Matt?
I don't know. My computer seems to be dying. But
oh no, not again!
I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if I had a
You're still here for us, man. You're still here for us.
I mean, that's good. That's good. What in the hell happened? Okay. I don't know. Things are shady over here in my land. So I don't know. I feel like print and plays, they're good if you're on a budget. But even still, you still have
they're
to
not really good on a budget. They're pretty
horrible
expensive
on a budget. You know how expensive ink is and all that other kind of stuff? And then plus, how much is your time worth? Like, how much are you investing into the game before you even play the game? Are you okay, Matt? Because your face just got really crazy.
Like, I just don't know what's going on right now. My computer's like losing its mind. It's ridiculous.
I don't know if it was your computer or Matt and I disagreeing with you, but you immediately went to like shock face, like don't you dare disagree with me.
Well, like roughly 34 copies of the same program just opened up, and I don't know why.
He's got that malware.
Yeah.
I think one of my old mouse macros might have like just shut off a billion times and just like open tabs.
Hey, but man, in Dota, you would be killing it right now.
I didn't even use it for Dota. It was like one of those things that was set up for like a Steam sale thing.
Nice. Okay, well, it's got to click at this specific time so I can get this Steam sale. Awesome.
Now the lights on my mouse are on. I don't know. Everything's weird.
Oh, technical difficulties always fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's good.
Printing and playing is expensive and interesting. And I mean, there's a huge like fan base and like call for it. There's a lot of people that love it. It's just hard. It's also
if you're
expensive.
An arts and crafts person, you will love print and plays.
Exactly.
But if you're not an arts and crafts person, it's probably not for you.
I when I did Spyfall, I printed out like half of the cards because I didn't want to cut all of them. I got lazy halfway through, and then when the full game came out, I'm like, yes, finally, the real game. Yes, I can play this. It's going to be so much better. Nice art. Like most of the time you get print and plays, it's like they don't actually have art on them, and they're just like, they look like a prototype basically. And it's like, oh man, it's so much better to have a real game with real cards and everything. So good times. Print and plays. Our next question is from Nerd of Wisdom on Instagram. They say, what are you looking forward to most in 2016, both in games and for the podcast? Me and Rob talked a ton about this on our 2015 review and beyond. So we talked about a lot of the things we're looking forward to in 2016. We talked a ton about like our excitement for the podcast, but Matt wasn't on that episode due to computer issues. So now we're going to let Matt talk about what games he's looking forward to and if he still wants to be on the podcast or if his computer's just going to break. I'm just kidding.
No, it seems like everything's okay except for my mouse is green now, and I'm not sure why.
Because it's the best color.
I mean, it's okay. I typically have the lights off because they're bright. But so what games am I looking forward to most in 2016? I'll be completely honest. I have no idea because I don't keep up with anything as far as games go. So I will technically be getting my copy of Secret Hitler sometime in April, so I suppose I am looking forward to that so that I can bring it over and do that in Friday Night Game Night to see what you guys think of it. I find it fun, but we'll see what happens when we actually get it to the table over there. Other than that, I'm always really hyped about Lost in Space, but don't know when that's coming out. Don't know anything about it. I'm just really hyped for it. So
I really don't think that will be in 2016.
Probably not, but really hyped for it.
Yeah, would love for it to be. It could be a big shocker, but
so you're stoked for more info in 2016.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What he's talking about, Lost in Space, for the people that don't know, is the Dead of Winter Crossroads game. The second one is going to be a rendition of Lost in Space. And when we had Emerson on the podcast, he was talking about that because his partnership with Plaid Hat Games, and so we were just talking about Plaid Hat Games and Nazca Games and the future for different stuff.
And Isaac's been working on that for like a long time, so I know he was going back and forth on that. So hopefully,
but I know the big thing they're trying to get released in the Crossroads universe right now is the expansion for Dead of Winter, which is official.
And it's
maybe
cool
not
because it's
officially
not
on their
necessarily
website.
just an expansion. It is an expansion, but it's
a standalone.
also a standalone game. So you can play it with Dead of Winter. You can play it by itself. So that's exciting too.
So I think that with the Ashes expansions, as well as Seafall, because that's coming out by Plaid Hat Games. I think those will be their big stuff for this year.
So Matt, what do you think me and Rob talked about on the podcast like crazy when we talked about games we were excited for?
Probably Seafall. Or the Ashes expansion.
Mostly actually the Star Wars game that's coming out, Star Wars Rebellion.
Isn't it coming out like in a couple of weeks?
I don't know if it's that soon, but
April.
Fantasy Flight has like the last like 3 or 4 days. Fantasy Flight has been publishing like tons and tons of like new information about it. I've just been like, it looks so cool. So there's a lot going on in that game, and I'm excited for it.
I'm also really excited just to jump back on this again. I'm super excited to meet up with fans. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. Not that they're necessarily fans or whatever, but just to meet up with new people and play games, it's always fun. You know, it's kind of like a first date kind of a thing. You know, you're excited. You don't know if you're going to like them or not. So I'm excited for that. And then I'm also, the more I thought about this, and I didn't mention this last time, I am really excited for the new IPs that are going to become board games this year that we never thought of. Like, I never thought Portal would be a great board game, and I don't have it, but the people that have played it and reviewed it are like, this really works as a board game. And then Ghostbusters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is coming out this year. So I'm excited for the new ideas and IPs that are going to get used that we haven't even thought of yet, but some other crazy person in their mom's basement has.
Yeah. As far as like what things we're excited for the podcast, we're just excited to keep on doing it, and hopefully we have lots of exciting things in the works. Trying to make our podcast better for you guys and continue to put out awesome content. It's just so awesome, like all the interaction we've had with all of our friends on Instagram and Twitter and even our Facebook now. We're getting tons of people talking back to us about different things, and we love like answering the questions and talking to people. And it's just awesome because it's being on a podcast is interesting because we get to communicate with you guys a whole lot. It's like we're always just talking and telling you things, so you guys act like you get to know us, and it's interesting to actually like have you guys respond back. So make sure to hit us up on all that stuff. It's a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to more of that in the new year and hopefully meeting you guys at a lot of conventions. We're trying to go to several different ones. I'm definitely trying to go to Cool Mini or Not Expo. Are you still trying to do that, Rob? Maybe.
I know I'm definitely going to Gen Con. That's the only one that right now I can say I'm definitely going to.
Gotcha.
Which we need to buy our tickets in a couple of days if we're going to try to get a hotel.
Nice. And then Gen Con is the huge one that we're like a lot of our playgroup.
We'll go to local stuff.
Yeah. So, and that'll be a lot of fun too. So hopefully we can see you guys at some of those. That will be amazing.
I've just got other stuff this year that's asking for all of my money.
Awesome. Our next question is from Sabrina79H. She says, what are the best beginner games?
I'll knock out a couple. Boom, Forbidden Island and Ticket to Ride.
Nice. Those are good. Those are awesome.
What about you guys?
I really like, if you're looking for like a cooperative game, I really enjoy Flashpoint Fire Rescue as far as like a good like beginner, like co-op, like sort of laid back. It's awesome. Yeah, Matt, do you have any?
Rhino Hero.
Yes!
You know, the word we're not supposed to talk about, or the game we're not supposed to talk about. But, you know, it's...
I mean, for a dexterity game, it's on point.
It's a really good... I don't know. It's hard to say beginner game because I feel like it works well with everybody, and it's not necessarily that you're going to play Rhino Hero and then immediately like be interested in Twilight Imperium. However, it is a fun game that you can literally take anywhere and give to anybody, and everybody can play it and have a good time with it. So...
It's really interesting because like there's so many like great games to jump in on, like just in all these different genres. Like I feel like the core set for Legendary is great if you want a deck building game. I feel like if you want a game where you're like facing off as like mages or a magic sort of thing, I feel like Summoner Wars is a super simple game to get into, and it's a great game to start off with too if you want a one-on-one facing each other game. There's just so many great beginner games in all sorts of different genres, and then they just scale up from there. So it's like you start with Summoner Wars, and oh man, this is awesome. Then you move on to something like Ashes, and oh man, this is even more crazy if you want something more complex. Or you start off with some small like resource management style game, and you just start building up into more stuff. Like you start with Risk, and Risk is super like simple and random, but then you move on to bigger things all the way up to Twilight Imperium. It just gets crazier.
I thought Matt's beginner game was going to be Blood Rage.
I mean, it's not that hard. Let's be honest, right? I'm not going to say
I wouldn't say beginner. I wouldn't say beginner.
I think Codenames is another good game that beginners can pick up because it is very straightforward. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of components.
Anybody can play that. Kind of and also, like, I feel like everybody sees it all over the place all the time, but I feel like everybody should own a copy of Love Letter just because it's so simple to play also, and anybody can play it. Like, I've played hundreds and hundreds of games of Love Letter, and it's just a super simple game with 16 cards, and a lot of people enjoy it. So that's another great beginner game that can help get people into the hobby.
Boom.
Awesome. So our next question is from Tristan Plays. How do
Tristan dot plays.
Oh, okay. Forgot the dot. That's very important. On Instagram, they say, how do aesthetics play a role in the hobby? So what do you guys think about aesthetics or the way games look in gaming?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. For example, Euro people really don't care about aesthetics so much because they're more in the mechanics. But personally, I only buy games that look amazing. There are too many good-looking and good-playing games now to just have to give in to buy a game because the mechanics are good. And so, like, for my collection that I have so far, there's something aesthetically pleasing about each and every game that I own rather than just good mechanics. Like, there's something about it that I like. And so, again, to each their own. There's some people that may not be into that so much. They don't care if it's a wooden block or a big figure guy. I want the big figure guy.
Yeah. you should actually like go back and listen to our podcast with Peter Woken, where we were talking about graphic design. We talked a lot about how games look and how graphic design and amazing artwork and illustration like helps like with a game and makes people hyped and excited about that game. For me, aesthetics is definitely very important. That doesn't mean I won't play a game that looks a little bit more drab or doesn't have like the best artwork, but like my excitement level for the game just goes way up if it's a beautiful looking game. And like if the game is good and the game is beautiful, like that's what makes it into my top games of all time, you know? I mean, if it's an amazing game, I mean, maybe I'm shallow, but if it's an amazing game but the graphic design isn't that great, I'm going to sit there and think, man, I really wish they do a new edition of this game. This game's so great. This game's so great. If only they didn't miss on the artwork and like they could have put better like components in here. Because I mean, board games are very tactile, and if the components are not that great to interact with, then it's just kind of like they could have shot further with this and gone further and made it better. So.
Yeah.
With all the resources and stuff out there and all the amazing people in the board gaming industry, like you've got to be able to make a good looking game. What do you think? How does the way a game looks play into how you like a game, Matt?
I will be the voice of dissent here. So since I play a lot of video games, and a lot of video games are, especially indie games, are going back to that like retro feel where like the artwork is still really cool, but it's also really simple. Aesthetics aren't that big of a deal, and then I'll play a game that looks like butts if it plays well. But you know, like when you get a game like Blood Rage where it's like the minis are just spectacular, you're just like, ooh, yeah. Like it's not that. In my opinion, it only enhances the feel of the game, and so you can really only go up. But I mean, if you release a game that's fun on like notebook paper, I'll probably still play it as long as it's really fun. But you know, it would probably be easier to sell if it were on cardstock or had artwork that wasn't drawn by like a fifth grader.
Granted, there are some games that are extremely aesthetically pleasing. There's lots of Kickstarter games that look amazing, come with amazing miniatures, like maybe even the IP is amazing or great, and then people play it or they look at the rulebook and they're like, this game is not a game. It is not a game that people should play or be interested in. And I mean, there's been several Kickstarters that have kind of gone that way. One that I think of is like the Mega Man Kickstarter. People were so excited for, oh my gosh, look at this Mega Man game. And I saw pictures of it recently, and the game looks amazing. Like the Mega Man miniatures, the board looks great, but like people just say that the rule book is not there. It's kind of like a roll and move sort of thing, and you're not doing things that are necessarily as exciting. And there's been plenty of games where people make the game look really, really good and don't have a solid game behind it. The solid game is the most important thing. I will play an ugly game that is really good, but I will not play a pretty game that is really bad. And that's an important thing for people to know.
Yeah, but there are too many good games out there that look really good and are really good nowadays. Right. I mean, the industry has gotten to a point where you can't put out bad games anymore, because those Kickstarters that look amazing, but they don't, the rules are broken and stuff, they don't last. They may fill their Kickstarter quota, and they look good to fill their Kickstarter quota, but you won't see it on the shelves in 8 months or 12 months. And so I just think we're at a point right now where you have the option of being a spoiled gamer if you want, because there's so many good-looking games that work really well. And Matt, I'm glad you brought up Blood Rage. Reason being, mechanic-wise, the game can be broken. If somebody does the draft and they get the right cards, you can kind of break the game a little bit.
Well, that's just because you're playing with bad players. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, but the game looks so great that it takes it over that hump for you. But me personally, if you hand me a bunch of index cards and say, let's play a game, I'm going to be like, okay, where is it? Because I'm not playing an index card game. Like, that's not what I'm going to waste my time with. Might as well just play D&D and make up your own story rather than do something like that. You can't, for me personally, and I know I'm not the only person that feels this way, but don't come out with junk. You're not going to do well. And it's the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover, but in this scenario, do judge a book by its cover. I don't know. I'm not with you guys. If you ever play a stupid-looking game, don't invite me over.
I think another thing that might be a big deal about aesthetics is we're not necessarily talking about like component quality, because I mean, even if it is paper, if it's good quality paper, I don't care.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose my thing about notebook paper earlier is kind of drab, because if somebody hands me something on notebook paper, I'm gonna be like, this is cheap as all get out.
Yeah.
But as long as it's on good quality stuff, it doesn't matter if it's a stick figure or like, you know, whatever. Like,
interesting.
I can fill in the gaps where somebody else might not have had the creativity to fill in the gaps. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that much.
Back in the day when like shortly after Dominion had come out, they had a copy of it at Target, and like I guess someone had bought it online and like taken it back, and it was on the clearance rack, and I saw it and I'm just like, that game I know is good. I've heard good reviews, but just looking at the brownish colors and like the art is not super amazing in Dominion. It's all kind of like, it looks very, I mean, it's a Euro-ish deck building game where you're just getting like the victory points and stuff. But like just because of the like aesthetics of the way the game looked, it sat on that clearance shelf for a long time, and one of my friends actually ended up buying it after I had seen it like a bunch of times. I'm like, okay, we'll play it, and I played it, and the game was awesome because it was the first deck building game I ever played, so it was amazing for me to play it, but I walked by it because the cover wasn't super appealing, it wasn't all flashy and awesome looking. But I'll still play games that are good, and especially if they have good quality components, but it does make a difference on how well the game sells, I'm sure, for a lot of people.
I won't buy it. Bye, Felicia.
Nice. Well, our next question is from Ben Cobes. Is that how you say that, Rob? Maybe.
You're skipping a couple questions?
Did I skip a couple questions?
Oh no, sorry. Ben Cobes. I'm sorry. I was looking down at B Combs 41. I was like, you can't skip my risk question. Like,
no, we're not skipping your questions, man. So what do you feel are the best games to introduce to non-gamers to the hobby without frustrating them with complicated rules or boring yourself with the simplicity? And I feel this goes back to the beginner games. Code names, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a simple party game. If you're looking for like a game where somebody's like, hey, I want to get brand new into this. I think some of the games that Roy mentioned earlier, Summoner Wars is great. The Firefighter one, Flashpoint Fire Rescue is a good one. And not the Legacy Edition, and it's a little bit meatier. In this, I'm talking about Pandemic.
Yeah.
That has more to do with the gamer not getting bored, because no game of Pandemic is ever going to be the same. You know, there's different choices and things that you do, and the viruses spread different ways. But that's a fun game, you know, for new people to show them a little bit deeper, meatier game.
Yeah, I feel like co-ops in general are pretty good for like beginners, because as the gamer, you don't have to feel like, you don't want to be alpha gamering and playing the whole game for everybody, because that could cause a bad experience for people. But you can still help people along, and like you're all working together to get a job done, so you don't have to be playing specifically against another person. So co-ops are great for bringing people into the hobby, because they're like, wow, especially because most people that are not in the hobby have never played a cooperative board game. Like all the like classic board games are not cooperative board games. There's no classic cooperative board games. I mean, there are ones that are really old at this point. I mean, not really old, but it's just like their mind will be blown by the fact that you're actually playing together against the board game, and you can help them along the way with different ideas of what they can do, and like you don't have to feel like, all right, now we're playing this game, I'm gonna smash you, I'm gonna take you out, because that could definitely turn somebody off from the hobby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess we can go ahead to our next question. It's the game shop. What was some of your first specialty games, quote unquote, that you've played? So for me, I've been playing board games for a long time, so I don't know what you consider especially specialty. I played Settlers of Canaan, which is the I guess religious version of Settlers of Catan back in the day, where you actually have like the map of like Jerusalem and you're like putting your little settlements on like that, and you're trying to build the temple as well. That was basically just straight up Settlers of Catan. We also had Settlers of Catan shortly after we played that game. We got the actual version of that. I played like Dune with my dad back in the day, which is a pretty hardcore game. And we were super big into like Bang, the card game, not the dice game, because back in the day we didn't have the dice game. But I also played like a bunch of Flux and Munchkin, so you know that's where people started off back in the day. This day, I don't think there's an excuse to start off that way, though.
One of the games that got me into board games, first one I want to say that we played was Mansions of Madness, and it's still in my top 3. Absolutely love this board game. It's meatier. It's a very, very meaty board game, and I remember still to this day going to the Bat Cave. It was the name of that comic book store / magic store / whatever. And they played on Thursday nights, and the guys were like, "Hey man, you want to play a board game? We need one more." And I was like, "Sure." And the game was awesome. I remember when the game ended, we're all standing up around the table, just like jumping out of our seats, because it was on the last turn, on the last move of the game, that we killed the thing to be able to escape and win. And I still remember everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh," and we're all jumping, and the mansion keeper just had his head hung. That's the game that got me hooked into board games. And then shortly after that, Battlestar Galactica, and then Game of Thrones. Like when I jumped in, because I'm like Roy, where I've been playing for a long time, but I played a lot of the games over and over for a long time. Mansions of Madness was my first specialty game, and that's where it's expanded my board game vision, I guess, or board game identity to more than just area control games. Were those games, and absolutely amazing. Absolutely love those games. I'd play all of them right now.
For me, like I played tons of like board games like going up through my teen years, but I never got like when I actually became a hobby board gamer or decided that holy crap, this is what board games can do, was when I played Battlestar Galactica with the trader mechanic and the super in-depth like cooperative, because I played a bunch of games, but we didn't play cooperative games because there weren't really cooperative games back then. Yeah. So the first time I played like an actual cooperative game or semi-cooperative game where you have the traders and everything, that's when I was like, board games, let's do it. Because I was into D&D and Magic at the time, and I set that aside to go into board games. What about you, Matt?
Well, I mean, it's really hard for me to define specialty games, because it's like I played Trouble when I was 5 a bunch, and then I just didn't play board games until last year.
Because you played Trouble a bunch and you knew, that's what board games is.
And then it was like, okay, cool. And then we just like immediately jumped in, and like I was at Roy's, so it's just like an ever rotating swath of games. But like I feel like one of the games that has always stood out to me since the first time I played it was probably like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, because I was expecting, like, people say, "Hey man, it's a board game party." I'm like, okay, we're gonna sit down at a table, there's gonna be a board, there's gonna be pieces, we're gonna be moving around, things are gonna yada yada yada. And then you come in and you sit down and everybody has a card, and then there's like a phone that's talking to you, telling you what to do, and then immediately everybody opens their eyes and it's like, "That guy over there, he's a murderer, alright, gonna flip the table, everything's gonna be good." And it's like, okay, whoa, this is insane. I don't know, it's just coming into it, it was not something that I expected, and I have a fondness for it because of just simply how insane it can be.
Have you bought
Even though last
yet?
time we played, I have, and then I sold my copy to somebody, and I'm just gonna buy another one. I hadn't had an opportunity to play it, and then I knew somebody who was like looking for games, and I was like, "Oh, this is like a really simple, cheap game." And then that person happened to be like, but I need it for the weekend, and I was like, "Oh, I can just sell you my copy, and then you just give me the amount it's worth on Amazon, and I'll just buy another one." And they were like, "Okay," so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you stuck around, Matt. I'm glad we didn't chase you off. And
yes,
we played One Night Ultimate Werewolf this past game night, and loved that game.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That game is still awesome.
I need to
except for you, Roy, because anytime you were the werewolf, so was Matt, and somebody would say, "Yeah, I switched Roy with somebody," and Roy would be like, "Oh, you switched me? Are you sure? Okay, I was a werewolf, so was Matt. Let's kill Matt. Matt's a werewolf."
Well, there was the one time.
Am I lying? And Matt would just hang his head down like, no.
I can't believe you guys didn't kill me when I did like the classic like Tanner move. You're like, "Oh man, Roy's the Tanner." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the Tanner." Like I tried to play it super well. I was totally a werewolf, but it's all good.
Well, the whole point is you don't kill the Tanner because they're trying to die. That's why we didn't kill you, because you were acting like the Tanner.
I know. I was acting like the Tanner, but I was a werewolf, and you guys didn't kill me. It was awesome.
I think the thing is that since we played with some of the Daybreak expansion cards, like the Curator, that one
I really like that.
Really
shook things up.
Yeah, and made it a lot more interesting and also challenging in sometimes. So
the best part was when like you had the Curator thing and you were being quiet, and I'm like, Matt doesn't actually have the quiet thing. He's just playing it. And then at a certain point, you're just like, "All right, guys, let's do this." And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Matt's talking." I'm like,
it did.
I thought you were a werewolf, so I was like, okay, it's fine. Matt, I was like, "Matt, why did you talk? We were winning this. They were gonna kill Ryan." And then you turned out to be the Tanner, and I'm like, "Oh, that's why he talked, because he needed to. Like, he needed them to point at him."
I needed to misdirect so hard.
You needed to throw confusion.
And I like Ryan. He just stood up. "I'll give you $5. This is a troublemaker. I'll give you $5. Troublemaker.
He did that twice.
And he was right. He was right.
I'm actually a little disappointed that Ryan didn't get Seer that time, because typically one of two things happens when somebody gets Seer. They find out who's the werewolf, and then immediately when everybody opens their eyes, they just go, "Hey, does anybody want to claim to be the Seer?" "No, because I was, and this guy's a werewolf. Let's murder him. Let's just hit the stop button now. Everything's good." And then the guy who's a werewolf,
first you have to figure out if they switched people, because you get to see them before they switch. So you want to know if they switched you with the werewolf, because if they're like, "Oh, I switched you," and you're like, "Oh crap, now I'm the werewolf." Like, you want to know who it is so you can like math it out. But then like after somebody's like, "Oh yeah, nobody switched anything," or like, "Oh yeah, I switched these two," you're like, "Hammer time. Let's nail this person." You're like, "Here's the bus. Let's just roll it over."
It's such a fun game.
I just like when Ryan's this year, because Ryan will find out who the werewolf is and then wait until the last 20 seconds of the game to tell somebody.
And then no one believes him.
And then it's just pure chaos for that 20 seconds, and it's amazing.
They love it.
It's good.
All right, Rob. You have to read this question.
Thermoptic, right? Would you guys say Thermoptic?
Yes.
Seems good.
Thermoptic asks, if you have never played Risk before, and you can't pick the original or the legacy version, which version should you get? I would say my favorite campaign-wise, and I've said this in the past, is Lord of the Rings Risk. Mm-hmm. Now, it's expensive. They don't make it anymore. You can find it still on Amazon. I would try looking at some thrift stops or thrift shops or specialty like books and movies and DVDs and VHS stores. I know we have a couple here in town that they sell older stuff. I've actually seen a couple copies in stores like that, so you may be able to find a steal. That is such a fun campaign, and it is the campaign. It's the good guys versus the bad guys. You still get the feel of Risk. It's still area control, but you really got to protect the ring. But besides that, I really like the Walking Dead Risk. And the reason why I like the Walking Dead Risk is when your characters die, when your people die, they turn into zombies. And the person that controls the zombies is the person to your left. So if something is happening with the zombie, or you're trying to take over something, and these people are turning into zombies, then you have to fight the zombies, and the person to your left gets to roll the dice for you. And so I really, really like that because it makes everyone gets to be the zombies. And it goes based off of The Walking Dead on the comics, not on the show. In the show, I love the show. I've read the comics too. But I would say those two are my favorite just because of those cool mechanics. I really like that with The Walking Dead. 2210 is great. I really love the artwork and everything for Godstorm.
You can colonize the moon in 2210.
Oh yeah, 2210 you can colonize the moon, and then you get generals that get special powers that can do certain things. And so they're all a lot of fun. But I like Godstorm just because I really like the old Greek god mythos kind of stuff, and so I just think aesthetically, from what we were talking about earlier, that's very aesthetically pleasing to me, as well as the Game of Thrones Risk, aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, Lord of the Rings and then The Walking Dead are the ones that I would recommend after that. And then if you want something that's more game components and not just a campaign, but more meteor, I would say 2210 because of the generals and because of the powers and because of the moon. Because the moon offers a lot of points, but you can't just get to the moon. You have to do certain powers and stuff. That's another great one. You if you're a Risk fan, you won't go wrong playing any of those versions.
I'm gonna say get the new Star Wars Risk because it's
but it's not really Risk.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I got it, but yeah, it's not really.
I
Risk.
actually heard that it's really hard for the Empire to win in that game.
I need to play it. I haven't even played it yet.
Yeah,
but I have several Risks that I haven't played. It's more of just a nostalgia, like childhood kind of thing where I'm trying to collect them all. Like if you're looking at my screen, this whole section from there all the way to there is nothing but Risk. Every single one of those games. And then there's a couple you can't see in that back section. There's a couple copies of Risk Legacy on top of it right there.
For the audio podcast, he has at least a 4-foot section of Risk copies.
There are roughly 15 games in there.
And there's 13. There's 13.
Roughly. He said roughly.
Well, it's more than that if you count all of my versions of Risk Legacy. But it's 13 individual different types of Risk. Crazy. And I'm excited for Risk because they're relaunching it, and they're coming back out with Castle Risk, which was really big in the 80s and early 90s, and all that's supposed to come out next year. So I'll get those editions next year as well. No, this year, because they announced that last year. It's this year. Hey, 2016. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Hooray!
So B Combs 41 asks, what do you look for in casual filler style games?
Hold on, you guys don't want to add anything to that? We just move on.
I'm about to say, you sir are the professional Risk player. I don't know if Matt has anything to add.
I don't, because I played Risk once and thought it was terrible.
You're terrible, Matt Robbins.
He just puts up with it every podcast.
I mean, I'm sure
Risk Legacy.
Yeah, I probably would, and I'd probably like some of the other Risks that you're talking about. I just base Risk to me was just like
roll dice.
It's like
I love dudes on a
it's
map.
It's the epitome of like Amerithrash, and it's like, okay, that's not me in like that example. Like I love Amerithrash games, but that I feel like is just too much crazy. But that's just me.
Rob,
I also played it when I was 7,
did you lose audio, Rob?
I did not lose audio, but you guys are starting to sound really weird. And I don't know if it's because the computer found out that you were making fun of Risk or not.
That's probably what it is.
You guys all of a sudden started to sound robotic to me.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
You're back now.
Awesome. So our next question is from B Combs 41. What do you look for in a casual filler style game? Honestly, quick, simple, and easy to teach.
Yep, and I want to laugh. I want to enjoy it. I don't want it to be super serious. Even when we played Welcome to the Dungeon, we had a good time and we laughed. Mm-hmm. No seriousness.
Like I really love like the super small box, super like short. Like time frame is the main thing for a filler because you're trying to just fill up time until we get to the main event game or whatever, or play a bigger, heavier game or a longer game So, but yeah, love letter. Welcome to the dungeon. Like anything super short and simple.
Fun,
like that is
simple,
amazing.
Good mechanics.
Mm-hmm. Do you know of any filler games that you like, Matt, or you're just gonna leave it with us?
I mean, Rhino Hero.
I mean, that is a great filler.
I feel like a lot of the games that I would consider like filler games are games that would, invariably, because they are so much fun to play, just become like the main course. Almost
because you're not playing them as a filler, you're playing them over and over and over again.
Like Rhino Hero is a great filler game. However, Rhino Hero is also like Oreos, and that you can't just eat one. You gotta have at least 3. And so a game of Rhino Hero might take 5 minutes, but it also could take 20 minutes if everybody's like just on point. So, it is what it is.
I like that. Rhino Hero is the new Oreos of the gaming world. Love it.
Awesome. Joshua Gustin asked, what are your favorite style of game and why? I'll do it. For me, my favorite kind of game is an epic game that is a 4X style game. I don't get to play these games every day, most of the time because they take a long time, but I love games that are huge, sprawling, immersive games that tell an epic story that you won't forget very soon. My favorite game of all time is Twilight Imperium. It's a huge, sprawling 4X game that there's huge space armies, and there's space diplomacy, and there's giant ships shooting each other, and there's tech upgrades, and there's resource management where you're trying to colonize planets and all sorts of different crazy things like that. I also love games like War of the Ring, where it's this huge thematic like 2-player game that takes like 4 hours to play, but it literally feels like Lord of the Rings in a box, and you're taking these giant armies and clashing them, and the free people are trying to hold on, and they're trying to get Frodo to have just a little bit of a chance to be able to throw the ring in Mount Doom. But if you're on the opposite side playing as a shadow player, trying to do everything you can to just smother the entire like countryside and take over all the free people strongholds and corrupt Frodo, and that game feels like Lord of the Rings. I just like these big giant epic games. That's one of the reasons I'm really excited about playing Forbidden Stars hopefully soon, just because it's another game that's like, it's really got a lot of meat to it, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, and that's part of the reason why we're called Epic Gaming Night, because I'm such a fan of epic, huge games. What about you guys?
I would have to say strategy in area control. Strategy goes a lot into 4X as well. I like co-op games. We play a lot of co-op games together just because of our groups, and it makes it easy to teach as well. But I really love strategy games where it's kind of like me versus the world. Like my favorite game of all time, and Blood Rage is tied with it now, but Game of Thrones. Love the strategy and the mechanics of that, and trying to figure out, because it's not only is it strategy and what I want to do, but it's also player, like I'm playing Matt, I'm playing Roy, and I'm not just playing what I think they have, I'm playing them mentally, and I love games like that. And of course I love area control, and that just comes to the part of me that just like, my army's bigger than yours, suck it. I mean, I just love that whole idea of global domination and takeover, and that's just because I've been playing that type of game since I was a kid. I really love Risk and Axis and Allies. Those are classics and favorites of mine. But any type of strategy game where it's me versus the world.
Blood Rage and Game of Thrones kind of have pretty similar combat. I mean, not the exact same, but you see the numbers that you have. You both have a number at first, and then people are adding numbers in. Like in Game of Thrones, you have the house cards, and you don't know exactly what your opponent's playing, and it's like,
well, it's the same thing with Blood Rage.
If they play this could happen, or if they play that could happen. Do they have that card? Okay, well, they've used this house up. I know they've already used that character. That character is dead, so now they might have this other one, or maybe they're going to reshuffle their deck, and they're going to have something different. And then in Blood Rage, it's like, oh, did they draft this one? Did they draft that one? Are they going to Loki me? Are they going to do this? So it's very much like, you know the numbers, you know your starting odds, but then you're playing the other players for those cards you put in. So yeah. I really enjoy that a lot too.
Yeah.
What about Matt?
I mean, my favorite types of games are social deduction games.
I was going to say, if you didn't say it, I was going to be shocked.
I love games where the game essentially sets itself up with minimum equipment, minimum like pieces or parts, and just pulls itself back and kind of removes itself from the forefront, and you are now sitting at a table with 6 other people, and you're essentially gaming that person, like kind of like what Rob is talking about with strategy games and stuff. But I think social deduction takes it one step farther, because you're trying to not only discern like what they're trying to do, but you're trying to discern like motives and actions, and if this person's lying or this and that. So it's a lot like strategy games, but instead of taking 3 hours to play a game, these games typically can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes in length. So you can bang out a bunch of these different things and sort of ruin friendships and just have like all sorts of just crazy stuff happen in like an hour essentially. So like, I don't know, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, always like the go-to social deduction game. It can fit in a cargo pocket. You can carry it with you. You can put it in your car, like glove box, and it takes 5 minutes to play. They're like, there's no reason not to play it. It's just real good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I feel like even though Deception is a big box game, in that it's, a larger box that can't fit in a cargo pocket, the pieces for it are still relatively small. Like, while
I love Deception.
Yeah, and while they have a lot of importance to the game, and that you need to like look at them and identify what's going on, there's still a whole lot of person-to-person interaction that it's not so much like with Euro games or even some of like Roy's larger 4X games, where it's just there's a giant board with a bunch of giant pieces and a bunch of cubes over here, little meeples and stuff running around, and it's like, okay, I'm actively engaging with other people in conversations and sort of quick-witted mental games. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I love social deduction games too. It's interesting because I've heard like several other like podcasters or like other media people saying that we're at this point we're pretty much oversaturated with social media or social deduction games, and people keep coming out with too many of them just because we've got the Resistance and we've got like another version of Resistance and we've got all these different kinds that they just keep coming out with more and more social deduction games. I love it. I love trying out new ones. I own a ton of different social deduction games, and like they're all like sort of different in little ways, and I enjoy trying out new ones, and I say bring it on. Especially when people are coming out with amazing ones like Deception. Like that's a social deduction game that just really is great. That just like takes it to another level with the whole investigator person like putting out the different things and like leading them to a person, but you don't know exactly who it is, and then that person's still trying to throw you off. It's awesome the different things that they can still do with that genre of game.
Boom.
Your audio is gone, Matt, if you're trying to talk.
It's okay. I forgot I muted myself so I could type. But yeah, like what you're saying, I feel like it's one of those things that social deduction games are, in essence, they're very simplistic in that there is a traitor. You must find the traitor via quick-witted conversation or whatever your preferred tactic. But because it's so simple, there's a lot that game developers can do to make them varied. So like if you think about One Night Ultimate Werewolf to Deception to like Secret Hitler, or even games like Dead of Winter or Battlestar Galactica, they're games that range different sizes, and there's just all sorts of stuff that is different about each game, even though the premise is pretty much the same. It's just find and murder the traitor. Like that's the entire goal of all of those games. So
Yeah. So our next question is also from Joshua. He says, have you guys ever thought about making a game? If not, what's holding you back? If so, what's been the hardest part for you? I'll start. I've kind of made several different little games, like done prototypes and all that different stuff. The main thing that's holding me back from it now is that I don't think I have what it takes. I really enjoy the idea part of board game design. I like coming up with the idea, like making stuff. I even enjoy like making cards and making powers and making all sorts of different things like that. I love like putting all that stuff out and like concepting out the game and like getting it to like maybe a playable form. The part that I hate, or the hardest part for me, is the developing part and making that game actually good, or making that game actually balanced, or reiterations. Because if you don't know, board game design requires tons and tons and tons of going back to the drawing board, reiteration. And this goes back to my hate for doing print and plays. Probably another reason why I don't really do many print and plays is because in my own prototypes that I made, I kept having to recut out parts and remake the game and redo things and re-upgrade things. And oh no, I spelled that wrong. Now I got to print that card out again. And okay, well now I got to fix that one number on that card. Let's print it out again and do it again and just keep playing it over and over again. And it's a lot of work. I have amazing respect for these designers and developers who go through and do play the game over and over and over again until they make it perfect. It's amazing and a lot of hard work, but definitely the development, balancing, and reiteration part is the hardest part. And that's why I'm doing this now, because I decided I didn't have what it takes.
I did try to create a board game one time. And
how far did you actually get?
I came up with a concept. I had the rules. I used pieces from other games.
Dag, you started with rules? Like
yeah,
you had to start with the rules written down?
Yeah, I wrote down rules and all that stuff. And then we played it, and the rules were completely broken.
Nice.
And it just got frustrating. And so I moved on. Now, I'm like Roy, where I really like the creative aspect of it. I really wish somebody would take the idea that I talked about on that one podcast about taking Spectre Ops but doing it from like a serial killer point of view. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Like a Jason, like a Friday the 13th. But anyway, it's just not for me. I'm also with Roy. I highly respect the people that do that because it is not easy, and I'm using my creative part of my brain on other projects right now.
Nice. So Matt, I know you haven't been in the hobby for this is like your almost your like anniversary of being in the hobby, almost, isn't it? So
pretty much.
The beginning of the year. The beginning of the year is when you started playing board games. So, having played board games, have you had any like inkling to like be like, I could do this, I can make one?
Yeah, so I have like two concepts that are floating around in my head. One of them is just very like loose. Like it came back from the podcast that somebody asked us the question like what IP we would like to see like be made into board games, and like I just thought about like I think Blade Runner would make a really interesting kind of complex board game, and so I've been trying to just flesh out what that might look like. Haven't gotten very far at all, but it's still just like a fun mental exercise to kind of work on and look at. I don't really have the same experience that Roy and Rob have, so I can't be like, oh, well, I enjoy the creative aspect, but don't really like the aspect where I'm like prototyping things and making them, because I haven't done that. So I don't know if it's something that I would like or would enjoy or would absolutely hate, or, but that's just my small foray into things, or just occasionally taking examples of games and then thinking about them. So not a whole lot.
Yeah, I love like the concept stuff. Another problem with me is like I don't have the ability to. I haven't found the ability to create or make up like brand new mechanics. So a lot of like the games that I've designed, they use mechanics that I've seen before. Like they're not like brand new, crazy, innovative things. And there's a ton of designers that kind of do that same sort of thing. You see a lot of designers that's like, oh, they made these games, they're really cool, but they're not like crazy innovative. There are some designers that every time you see their games, they're just like, what is that? Like Vlada Chvátil makes all these crazy games that are completely different, that are just like, that same dude made all these different games. That's crazy. And there's a lot of other designers that are just like, they're like fresh and new when you see their games. You're like, that is interesting. That doesn't really fit into any genre we've had before. That's brand new. Yeah. Like Rob with the whole legacy thing. It's just like, holy smokes, that's amazing. But that's another thing that I don't know if I have the ability to just make something completely brand new. And there's a lot of designers that go on the fact of, I can make this sort of thing but make it better, and a lot of times that works. You can see a lot of games where it's like, there was a deck building game and other people made better deck building games. It's not like it was a brand new mechanic or brand new things. They just honed in on specific things, put better theme in it, and made it better in specific ways. So it's kind of interesting, but yeah, game design, I try to stay away from it. I feel like every board gamer
has thought of something,
thinks about making board games. Just different people have taken it to different amounts. But before you actually go into it, it's a lot of work. And there's a ton of podcasts out there if you're actually interested in game design that talk about amazing things for game design. Definitely check out Board Game University podcast. They talk about board games. And then a lot of the Plaid Hat podcast earlier episodes, they talk a ton about game design, and it's a lot of really good stuff there.
Yep.
Awesome. So leading into that, the next question is, what are your favorite podcasts / people to watch? I watch a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Why don't you go? Because you and I probably watch the same.
I'll probably knock out all of yours, Rob, and then some.
No, there's a couple that are non-pod or non-board game related that I listen to. Gotcha. Do you want me to mention those?
Yeah, I definitely do Dice Tower because that's awesome. I listen to almost all that stuff. Shut Up and Sit Down is amazing because they're hilarious. I watch a lot of the different ones on the Dice Tower network. They're a lot of fun. I listen to the Board Dams, which is a couple girls who do a podcast, which is pretty cool. There's just a ton of different great board game media out there, and I consume as much of it or any of it that I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I'll also add to that the Plaid Hat as well as the Secret Cabal.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Podcasts like the Secret Cabal. Outside of board gaming podcasts, I really like to listen to Freakonomics and TED Talks. I think those are a lot of fun, but again, they're not board game related, and so I do listen to those. And then I also listen to Nerdist. I'm a big Chris Hardwick fan. I'm not such a fan of the language. I will let you know that is an adult podcast. I don't speak like that, but anyway, I enjoy his content and the guests that he has.
Nice.
But yeah, if it's a board game type of something and they're halfway decent, I either listen to them or I watch their videos on YouTube, which I watch them like I'm listening to them because I really don't watch them. I just listen to them while I'm working on business projects and stuff.
Nice.
So,
what about you, Matt? I know you watch a bunch of...
Well, I mean, pretty much no board game things.
We do some D&D stuff, right?
I don't listen to anything that you guys do, save for the TED Talks. But the things podcasts that I listen to would be Welcome to Night Vale, which is just really relaxing but creepy podcast where somebody's pretending to be a radio announcer in a very small town where a bunch of just strange things are happening constantly, and it's an absolute blast. My favorite thing is if you have Fallout 4, turn Welcome to Night Vale on in the background and just walk around in Fallout 4, and it gives you this really interesting post-apocalyptic vibe that I haven't been able to quite replicate. It's fantastic. But other than that, I'm a super big fan of Critical Role, which is Geek and Sundry's D&D Twitch stream that they put up on Thursdays. Yeah. And it's just a bunch of voice actors that sit down and play D&D, professional voice actors hanging out doing characters, and it is consistently phenomenal. So if you like D&D, or you think you might like D&D, or you like anything role-playing or just RPGs in general, even if it's video games, just listen to it. There's nothing bad at all in there. It's phenomenal and top quality from top to bottom. So lots of laughs, lots of sad parts. It's real good. So.
Yeah, I've definitely listened to a lot of the Penny Arcade D&D games too. They're a lot of fun.
I I feel like I should say I listen to Harmontown, but I wouldn't recommend anybody listen to Harmontown because it is just bananas.
I don't even know what that is.
So Harmontown is a podcast that's done by Dan Harmon, the guy who created Community. So if you like Community, you might like it, but honestly, Dan Harmon is kind of crazy, but like in a very interesting way. But since Rob put a filter on Nerdist because of the language, I'll put a filter on Harmontown. It's just like insane, the stuff they talk about. It's real rough. But if you don't mind rough things, give it a try. I mean,
far away from any children.
Worst comes to worst, you go, that was weird. I'm not gonna listen to that again. So I mean that's pretty much it for what I got. So
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Honeycutt 72 asks, when do you think a hobby has become a problem?
When you have to go to a support group for it.
When you're skipping work to stay home and play board games, that would be bad.
When your significant other leaves because of it.
That's real bad.
Well, then it could be good then, because then you don't have to worry about them. You can just play more.
You're a terrible person.
Hope your wife doesn't listen to this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think like having a whole bunch of
if
games.
you can't
like,
pay your bills, but you're buying games, that's a problem.
Right. So
yeah,
you have to get your priorities straight. I mean, family first. Make sure like you have your essentials, like you have a roof over your head and stuff like that. Don't be like living out on the streets in a house made of board game boxes. Like that's not going to work very well. So,
and they don't last well in bad weather.
They don't last well in bad weather. I mean, you could maybe like build it underneath a table, and like that would support the rain a little bit, and then you at least have the table to play it on. So I mean, then you're good, right? If you just have the table, and then you live underneath the table with the board games, like.
No.
I mean, technically yes, but you would have to
Water
live on it.
splashes.
No. So you would have to
like
live
a
on
tarp?
an incline. And then, so you would essentially have a tarp that would go over the table to give you some sort of water insulation, but you would have to live on an incline and then make a rut at the top of the incline so that water didn't seep into the ground.
But then at that
don't
point,
worry about it.
That point, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't really have many friends to play the board games with because it'd be kind of like awkward to be like, oh, it's the table guy, and then you'd have to be like. You just make sure you have a bunch of solo games. Just have a bunch of solo games, and you'll be good. You'll just sit there with your table and just play the solo games.
Or be out there in the woods with your table, become a Disney princess, and play with all the small woodland creatures that you will befriend.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's the only advice I have in that regard. So.
Could you imagine playing some social deduction games with woodland creatures?
Just hanging out with like Timmy the squirrel, you're like,
When you've played so many board games that you think you can talk to animals, you've gone too far. That's the tipping point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question, and this one's silly. Also,
the best question.
You have to answer it first, Matt. Hedron 3 says, "Why isn't there an expansion for Rhino Hero?"
So, I don't know. My assumption would be that it's produced by Haba, so Haba doesn't really care. They put out really good games that can be on their own, and that's fine. But I can think of tons of expansions for Rhino Hero.
Yeah.
That should and could be a thing, even if it's just you take a deck of playing cards and scribble out what's on the playing cards with some Sharpie marks, and then you start building your own expansion for Rhino Hero. I think that could equally work just as well. However, I don't know why there isn't one, but you know.
So for me, why isn't there an expansion for Rhino Hero? Because you can't expand perfection. Like the game is perfect as it is.
That's such a cop out.
Like it is amazing. So here it was like. The beginning of like creation, like on the 7th day there was Rhino Hero, so like it came down from the heavens. There's Rhino Hero, and like the rhino's just like glowing. The yellow box, you can tell like it's just like majesty. So you can't expand perfection. Come on, guys.
I'm not going to answer that.
Everybody always talks about Rhino Hero on our Instagram all the time because people are like, "Hey, I bought Rhino Hero because of you," and I'm like, I try to keep telling these guys we talk about it every episode.
I mean, it's hard not to though.
Oh, you guys.
Well, it's so simple. It's so easy. And we haven't even played it in a while, and we still talk about it. We need to play it.
I'm trying to not play it so we don't have an excuse to talk about it. It just still happens. I'm
just going to show up with a deck of cards one day. This got Sharpie marks on it. I'm like, guys, this is my homebrewed Rhino Hero expansion. Let's get ready. And you guys are going to be like, what is happening right now? It'll be glorious.
Man, I really need to get somebody from Haba on this podcast.
Oh, man, it's been a fun show.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, did you have any Rhino Hero expansion stuff, Rob, or you're just gonna leave it at the silliness we said?
If it was by any other company, I think that there would be an expansion. But by the time Haba expects an expansion for that group of players to want an expansion, they've outgrown Rhino Hero. Now we push Rhino Hero for all ages, but it's really meant for like 5-year-olds. But not. No.
The box says $5 to $99.
I'm with Matt.
I fit in that category, $5 to $99. I'm in there.
I fit in the category. I'm with Matt. I think there's a lot of crazy cool ideas, like incorporating twice as big size cards as the normal playing cards, and trying to make tiers and other levels that like branch off. I think it'd be fun, but I also agree with Matt where I think that they already make so many good games that it's one of those things where, let's just make something else.
I don't think any Haba games have expansions. I think every single one of them are standalone, which is pretty cool. They've actually reiterated some games that they've had. Like they have Gulo Gulo, which is this little game where you're trying to pull little things out of a thing without having a little stick fall over. It's a very interesting game. It's kind of hard to explain. But then they made a Pharaoh's Gulo Gulo game where you're trying to pull the same little things out and you're moving on a board this time instead of just moving around in a circle. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Sounds fantastic.
So before we end, Zeb just hit us up with a question in chat and asked, what are our thoughts on tabletop game tables?
Oh my goodness. Amazing. I would love to make one. I've been watching a lot of videos recently about people making decent ones for under $100. If it's a hobby that you're really going to get into, like Roy and I have, and Matt's into it, but he doesn't need to buy the games because Roy and I have the games. I think it's essential just because, the felt is really great for the cards. It also makes it takes away in wear and tear. I think they're great pieces as well, because you can say this isn't just a table, this is my board game table, kind of like that guy who has the poker table or the pool table. Like this is my board game table. We don't eat dinner on this table. I love the idea. I think it is all aesthetics. You can play any board game on any table, whether it's one of those cheap flip out poker tables that people talk about. You can play on anything. You can play on the floor, like Matt just said. But I just think it aesthetically, it's amazing and pleasing. When I get my new place, we'll be building one, and I'll have a board game table, and I plan on doing it for less than $50. I just think this is cool, man. It's just cool.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
There's tons of online, there's tons of people who have their setups for making their own board game table, and there's people who've done it for pretty inexpensive, which is pretty awesome. I mean, you can go the crazy route and check out Geek Chic, which has extremely expensive tables, and there's some other companies popping up like Board Game Tables and stuff like that. It's the name of a company that's starting to make different, a little bit less expensive tables, but you for the amount of money that it costs to make a lot of those tables, or for them to do it, you could pretty much make it yourself. If you have the tools, you're there. If you don't have the tools, you could probably buy some of the tools and make the table for the price that they charge for something.
The main thing you're going to want to do with your table, and the main tool you're going to want to, besides hammer and nails and other stuff, what I mean by other stuff is, screw gun and everything, but is a sander. You don't want to play on a table where you have really rough edges where somebody could get hurt. So you just want to make sure you can sand down the edges and sand down your wood, because if you do it under $100, it's going to be cheap wood. Now you can sand it down and make it feel really nice, and then stain it or whatever, so it presents itself nice. But I would make sure you get a good sander, because sanding by hand gets old really quick.
Nice. But yeah, board game tables.
You also could buy a Dremel or a router.
Sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's Hardware.
One day I'll have a nice board game table. My board game table is a table that's been in my family for like years. I played on it.
But it works perfectly.
I played on it like forever ago. It's kind of crazy. So
there has not been a board game that we have not had room because of your table. It works perfectly. And sometimes those are the best because those are the tables you can find at like at a yard sale or something like that for like $10 because grandma died, and so now they're cleaning out her house, and so you go buy that table and get a couple chairs. That's the only thing is board gamers are typically larger people, yes. So just make sure you get some you may have that old wooden table, but invest in some chairs, invest in some metal chairs, or you're going to go through
metal fold-out chairs
have been lost.
Yes.
Metal fold-out chairs that you can buy for like $10 to $12 a pop that you find at literally every social event that is in a coliseum ever.
Yeah.
Are fantastic because they're metal.
Yep.
Yeah. But I probably won't stand if you have like a little... I probably won't sit. I'll just stand if you have those... Like, if you look at Roy's screen, for the people that are listening to the podcast, over Roy's right shoulder, he has a couple of wooden chairs that you can see against the wall. Those chairs look kind of sturdy, but if you were to touch them, they would shake, and they're very rickety.
Those chairs are super old, and some of my past D&D friends have put a number on them.
I will not sit in those chairs. Why? Because I don't want to break it. So... That's why you see
broken before.
That's why you look over his other shoulder. That's what I call the Rob and Matt chairs. Those two metal chairs that are right there. Those are for me and Matt. Every time we come, we adjust seating. Hold on, where's the metal chair? Okay, I'm gonna sit right there.
To be fair, there are also two other metal chairs that Roy has that we stay away from because it has a plastic back part that sometimes just comes off.
Yeah.
Oh, those if you can't tell have already been wrecked pretty bad.
Yeah, those are so I guess it's just wear and tear. So if you're going to buy a chair, buy a good quality chair. But this has nothing to do with the question of gaming tables. But
or get everybody a lazy boy.
That would be crazy.
Nobody would play a game. Within minutes we'd all be reclining watching meme videos.
Or if you want to go super West Coast, get everybody a yoga ball that sits on those little casters.
Yeah.
And then you have a yoga ball chair, so you're promoting proper posture.
It could be kind of cool.
Everybody hates you.
If you want to do something artsy, try to find an old church or whatever and get a pew. Those things are solid. And then it doesn't matter. Because you could, if you get a bunch of skinny people over, you can get 8 people on that pew, or you can get 3 Robs on that pew. But either way, it supports all of those people.
I think it would be amazing to have a super low table and just have a bunch of bean bags. That would be awesome.
Bro, but that would hurt your back after a while.
You just go with the Japanese style where you have the table that has the blanket attached to it, so everybody's just got their legs under the table and they're yay, just sitting on the floor.
That's what we're gonna need for the winter over here.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, that has been a podcast. We stream these podcasts every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. Make sure to check us out on our Twitter and Instagram. Hit us up on Facebook. We've been getting a ton more people over there. It's cool to interact with you guys. Also, check us out on iTunes. Make sure to write us reviews there because it helps people find the show. You guys are amazing. Check us out on our Board Game Geek Guild. That's always a lot of fun to talk to people on there. And hopefully we'll be getting a micro badge soon. I've been working on designing it. But yeah, thank you guys for checking us out. And I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Hooray.
Obligatory Rob talking about the end segment right here.
I'll do it. Yay! Gotta make noise in the music outro.
See you guys. Peace.
It's canon.